health correspondent Nicola Hill is with us now live from London. Nicola, good afternoon to you. So just how difficult is it for people like Paul to get on these trials?
Basically, it's when people are in hospital, that's when they're going to be approached and asked, will you take part in a trial? Professor Peter Horby, whom I interviewed there, was telling me that he's amazed that both the hospital staff, who of course are incredibly busy, incredibly pressurised at the moment, treating so many people, at 177 hospitals in the UK, are still finding the time to go up to patients, to explain very carefully, to read leaflets to them and to say, will you take part in a trial? Because this is the only way we're going to find more effective treatments. And he was saying to me that one gentleman he went to, not Paul, somebody completely different, he said, look, will you take part in this trial? And the gentleman said, well, I'm not sure, why should I do this? And Professor Horby said, well, look, you're being given dexamethasone at the moment, which is making you feel better. The only reason you're on this is because somebody before you was willing to try out dexamethasone. So if you can do the same thing, you're in effect paying it forward. And that's basically what's happening. And, as Paul Buckler said to me then, he felt that in a small way, he was doing his little bit to try and help find better treatments. And more than 36,000 people who have been hospitalised with COVID-19 in the UK have taken part. That trial's now being expanded. It's going to Indonesia and Nepal, which Oxford University has links in Kathmandu and Jakarta. And it's important for them to expand the recovery trial there because they want to see how effective these treatments are in countries where you've got other endemic diseases such as TB and HIV. And they also want to see if they can find treatments that are cheap enough for less developed countries to be able to afford. Tocilizumab, for example, is great, but it's expensive. So the two drugs that are going to be trialled in Jakarta and Kathmandu are aspirin, which is the blood thinner, very cheap, very old drug, and this colchicine, which is actually a drug that's used for gout. But again, it's a tablet form, and so that's going to be trialled. There's been a very small study on that one in the past that shows a little bit of success, and that's why they're trialling that one in this much broader recovery trial worldwide.
I mean, really important and really interesting that there are drugs that are out there that perhaps will be useful to treat COVID-19. Now, how will the sort of treatment programmes work, Nicola? Is it going to be like, getting a course of antibiotics after you've had a cold or something?
Now, it's really interesting, that, Kamali, that you use the word antibiotics there, because actually they've shown that they're not having any effect whatsoever. The thing is, antibiotics work against bacteria, and of course SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19, is a virus, and we know that it's very difficult to treat viruses. There are certain ones, measles, mumps, rubella, which are viruses, but the body clears itself, then you have an immunity. And the thinking is that SARS-CoV-2 is a similar type of virus to that, but we don't know how long that immunity is going to last. So that's why they're having to repurpose existing drugs to see if they work. And there's sort of three really groups of drugs that they're looking at. So there's the antivirals that are specifically to work against a virus. Remdesivir is the one that we've heard about with that one. There's a lot of mixed results with the trials on remdesivir, so we're not quite sure how effective that one is. Then there's the drugs that actually boost the body's own immune system, that actually help the body clear the virus. And those are quite expensive ones. That's that Regeneron cocktail that we know President Trump had, for example, but it's very expensive. And then there's also this need for the group of drugs that dampen the immune system, because we know when people get very severe coronavirus, when they're hospitalised, that's when the body's own immune system goes into overdrive and starts attacking itself. So that needs dampening down, and that's your dexamethasone and this one, tocilizumab. So it's also important for the scientists to work out when you give each drug, because you don't want to give them at the wrong time, because you don't want to dampen the immune system when it's necessary, and you don't want to boost it and put it into overdrive. So Lots and lots of drugs are being trialled. We've got the WHO Solidarity Trial. 100 countries are taking part in that, where they're all sharing their trials, sharing this information. So no cure, but they're certainly edging closer to finding effective treatments, certainly for hospitalised patients. Not sure at the moment whether there's anything for when you've been given a positive test result, whether there's anything you can take then to save you going to hospital. It's still very much your own body's defence system and immune system working to try and clear that virus.
It certainly is, but it's some positive news. Nicola Hill, our health correspondent there from London, thank you for that.